So yeah, question away.
This isn't a really intense question. I just was wondering if maybe Selma James would want to talk more about intersectionality as not being super useful. I'd be really interested to hear about that because intersectionality is something that I use a lot, and if it's not useful, well, I shouldn't be using it. So.
The question was about intersectionality.
What about it? She said the question.
She said that you said that you didn't find it useful. I was just wondering why.
And she uses it a
No,
lot.
she said if it's not useful, she doesn't want to use it anymore.
Oh, good. What we try to do, what we're all trying to do, is to express reality with as much precision as we can. Then we can decide what to do on the basis of what we found out. The habit of abstracting from reality is often useful, and I'm not suggesting that it's not. But when you say that the sectors that among us are divisions, and these divisions are based on gender, on race, on age, on nationality, on language, on immigration status, on sexual choice, and which of these choices, it is terribly important that you convey not merely that we are different sectors, but that to speak about sectors at all is to speak about power relations. That's the point. The point about mentioning sectors at all is to say that we live in a society which is hierarchical, and and it is through that hierarchy that we are ruled. The point is, I gave one example and really only concentrated on one, between women and men, in a very general sense. You know, men govern women, and that is part of the way the society is governed, so that in order for women to come out from under, we often have to face men in order to face capital. It's really not a nice thought, but it's the truth. And unless you articulate that, then you cannot help men, because we want to do that, because we want to be together. You cannot carry out a struggle in such a way that you undermine his power in relation to you and strengthen his power in relation to those who push him around. That is what we mean when we say hierarchy. The same thing is true on race. You know, if you are a person of color, you stand often against people who are white. And that power relation is the power against you, and you have to move that power from him or her. You have to undermine his or her power against you in a way that does not weaken him or her against those who push them around. So that this is what our struggle is about. Our struggle to come together is to undermine the power relations among us, to make way for us to be together. Intersectionality doesn't say that. It doesn't describe that, but it gives the impression that it is describing reality. And that's a problem, because we have enough trouble articulating with precision what it is we're living through. You know, an important part this is especially from the US originally, especially true in the United States. You know, you turn on the television and they don't give you information, they tell you how to feel, they tell you how to think, they tell you what you should be and how you should be. You know, they're giving you not information, but orders. You know, that's a crucial part of the way that we are governed. And when we get together to form a movement and to make a struggle, to organize, what we want to do then is to be very precise about what we see, so that we undermine the definitions of reality which are imposed upon us. And that's why I find intersectionality particularly annoying. It's not particularly terrible, there are a lot like it. But that particular one, since the power relations among us are absolutely the nub of the way we are governed and the way that we live. You know, we are always trying not to go down in the hierarchy, and some of us will step over anybody to get above in the hierarchy. We're always threatened, you know, by losing our place, by falling behind. Our parents are always pushing us up, you know, read the book, pass the exam, get the job, etc. You know, they mean well for us, but we have to decide what we want, and we have therefore to know what the problem is that we are confronting. That's my objection. Does that make any sense to you? Good. Can I just say before the next question, there's something that Nichola said that I think might not be appreciated because she played it down. The time use survey that grassroots women did in Guyana is one of the most wonderful things I've seen in the movement for a while, because people did diaries of their day, and what came out was how much work they were doing of all kinds, not merely housework, agricultural work, caring work, but also emotional work, which is a lot of the work that women do. And what they did when they were finished, what they had was, on the whole, women of each of the three important major races was about the same. But there was one difference. The indigenous women worked harder. Yes. That is, the poorer you are, the longer is your working day. And that was not a question of any propaganda. They could deal with all kinds of propaganda, all kinds of racist propaganda by saying, look, this is how much you work, she works the same. That was a way of undermining the racism on a really massive scale, and on the basis of information which was irrefutable because it was their information. I think that yes. was such a great yes. thing that I had to call attention to it.
Yes.
I have a question for each. So Nichola, you always mention grassroots women. So I was wondering, did upper class women help with this as well?
Our organization is mainly grassroots women. Upper class women don't want to see themselves, you know, in the same way. So this is something that is too low for them. So we don't know, they don't help in that. So it is mainly the grassroots women who have been, I mean, the upper class women are very hostile to grassroots women, so like the academics, you know, or most of the academics, I would say, so no.
And a question for Selma. So, well, I wanted to know, what are the practical ways in which you would hope that we can overcome these barriers? As you mentioned, like for example, if a woman is in power, how is she supposed to help another woman or the woman in general to get to the same level as her?
We don't quite look at it that way. The first thing is, as Nichola said, we're based on self-help in the campaign generally. The kind of work that Philadelphia is using, they can talk about themselves. especially getting children back from the DHS, the Department of Human Services, who fundamentally steal the children. And that's fairly widespread, and that, it seems, is widespread everywhere in the world. But the point is, what you have, you make accessible. Whether people take it is entirely up to them. When people come to the center, this is our center, when people come to the center because they want help, you work with them depending on, you know, how much they want to do for what is their problem. And they have to be the central protagonists in any struggle that is made. We who are at the center, depending on what organization we're part of, whether it's Women Against Rape or Black Women's Rape Action Project or Legal Action for Women or Single Mother Self-Defense or etc., you are trying always, first of all, to win her case, to help her to win her case, but also to draw connections about how winning her case would be useful to others, to draw them into what she is doing and make her struggle more effective. It's not that you have something that you give to somebody else, but that you make what you have and what you know accessible to other people and help them to use that to the degree that they want to. They have to make the decision about what they want to do, and we make the decision on that basis of how much we want to help them. I'll give you an example. At our center is an organization called the All African Women's Group, which started with a few women, but now 50, 60 women attend meetings every other week. And it's a self-help group, and they are asylum seekers. It's not only African women, we have women from a number of other countries, but it's almost always African women who've come from the proxy wars, who have almost always been raped, often by a number of military, who've left their children behind, very often don't know if they're dead or alive. All kinds of horrible things have happened to those people, and they're trying to stay in the UK where the laws are entirely racist and they're not interested in whatever has happened to them. And we have a handbook that they can read, if they can read English, otherwise we have to get translators to help, etc. And they meet collectively and discuss the cases. They have a whole procedure where every woman has the advice and help of other women in the organization, plus the women who are at the center, legal services, etc., to make the best case they can and try to get their right to stay. It's a losing battle most of the time, but it is a whole procedure by which they have some sustenance, because they often don't have any income. They just have no money. They're often living on the street, and we have to find sometimes places for them to stay. The disaster that the West has perpetrated on Africa is unbelievable. Even if you know it, you don't believe it. It's so horrendous. But there is a process, and there is self-help, and we do win cases, and we win cases that are just absolutely unbelievable. At least 3 different families have been reunited when the government said absolutely not, the children are not to come. They didn't even know where the children were. The children were found. We found money to bring the children to the UK, and the families were reunited. So we have some successes, not a lot, but we keep together and we work at it. Does that help you? Did you have something particularly in mind?
I guess I was just trying to find, like, apart from that, like, other practical ways? Like, I suppose with the example, well, you said that's not the way that you think about it, but I don't know, maybe. I don't know if I can make it any clearer. It's okay. I can't think of another way to say it.
Well, what you have to bear in mind is when you're organizing seriously, there are no shortcuts, there is no formula, you have to invent it as you go along, you have to pay a lot of attention to who comes to you, what they want, what they think, where they're going, what their connections are. You have to know where the levers of power in society are. You have to know how to use the state against the state, okay? You have to know that. That's really what we have found is the only way. You know, there used to be, if you take money, then you have to do what the funders say. So either you take it or you don't take it. I said, well, let's take it and not do what the funders say. And we have been able to do that sometime now. But you know, on the one hand, you work with generalization, but on the other hand, you're working with individuals all the time. There are individuals who work for charities or funders who really like what we do. They really like, and they fight for us. Now, there are not many. And it took a while to get any. But it happened because you made it your business to be precise about what you are doing. You were clearly serious, and you didn't tell them, I want to overthrow the state. You didn't put it on any grant application. You know, you're not anxious to tell them what you think. You're anxious to tell them what, honestly, what you are doing, which you think they'll like. Okay? And we never lie, not to funders. We don't want to get caught, you know. So, I mean, these are, it's a day-to-day experience. Can I just say one thing which I really shamefully left out of my speech, and it's an example. We have a petition for welfare. We said when we began that the problem of wages for housework is to go from 0 to 1. After you have 1, you ask for a wage rise. But to go to 1 is something important. And at another occasion I'll tell you some experiences that we had with that. But in the UK, in a welfare state, you had 1. You had family allowance and you had income support or welfare, what you call in this country, which has been decimated. We want it back. We think it's needed. We think that it's a scandal that in the richest country in the world people are eating from food banks, and in the UK the same thing is now true because they followed the American example and we have not been able to defeat them. And so we have a petition saying, invest in caring, not killing, a living wage for mothers and other carers, so that we put together those who are ordinarily paid for caring work and mothers and other carers who are not paid, family carers are not paid for their caring work. What we're doing is we're making a financial demand, yes, obviously. We're putting caring work together as a crucial part of the work of the society that we think should be its focus, that production should serve rather than we serving production. We put those who are low-waged together with those who are unwaged, all in the phrase, a living wage for mothers and other carers. And it has, in fact, begun to have exactly that impact. We're dealing with Scottish kinship carers who are grandmothers, who are paid pittance for taking care of their children, their grandchildren, and others who are wage carers who are paid very little. And that begins to focus politics on what you want politics to be focused on. That is the human race, its reproduction, its care, and those who provide that care, so that you find the political instrument, the weapon, that is suitable for what you want to accomplish, in the same way as Guyana found the time use survey, which was absolutely perfect for laying the basis for dealing with racial conflicts, which the politicians were exploiting so that they were getting really workers for virtually nothing.
We have a question over here.
The next answer won't be as long.
This is for Nichola. So you initially mentioned that you wanted to return to a Red Thread meeting because you felt that your opinion was being heard and you felt comfortable in that setting. I was wondering if you could explain like the typical socialization that a young Guyanese girl would grow up with.
Okay, the thing is, for me as a young girl growing up, you were not allowed to really say what's on your mind. To say that would be rude. It has changed somewhat over the years. So, I mean, if something was annoying and it had to do with an adult, you just couldn't say it. Now, I grew up as in a single parent household, and in a community, a very poor community, and I have been, looking and seeing some of the things that were happening to women that I really did not agree with. But there was no way I could say any of these things because I'm a child, this is big people business, and this is not your concern, and you should mind your own business and be the child that you are, and so on. I mean, some of the things that I saw happening to my mother as well that I really didn't agree with, there was no space for me to say it. But Red Thread created that space for me to say what, I'm really feeling and thinking about what's happening in our society. And I was able to say some of the things that I thought and felt about what was happening to my mom in front of her face at that time that I couldn't say before. And the society, it's changing a bit, but a lot of the young people don't really see, these things as important to them. The most thing that is important to them is getting up when the day comes. They don't see the whole thing about fighting for change as important. The thing for them that is important is living from day to day, getting education, and so we would call pious and other people who don't have, and that is all that there is to it. So really organizing and discussing and bringing out the issues that affect us and that shape us is really, really important. And I found it important then, and it helped me. I think it has shaped me and helped me to be the kind of person that I am today. And therefore, I'm really trying to work with other women and youths to help them to, see things in a different perspective, to be more political. Because, the whole thing about politics is our very existence, and we really sometimes don't see it as important. Does that answer you? And sorry, to you who asked about the middle class women and so on. I must say that some of them are friends of some of us in Red Thread, but really they don't want to be associated with Red Thread and Red Thread work because it's like too degrading for them. They would more prefer to, like, if we're raising funds, give a little donation and feel that they're really doing something.
I have a question for Nichola. Hi.
Hi.
So it's clear that the Guyanese government does not fund Red Thread enough. So my question is, where does Red Thread receive most of its funding? Is it from international donors? And do you plan on making Red Thread primarily funded by the Guyanese people?
All right, so Restaurant is funded by international donors, and like I said earlier, a lot of the funders, they don't really want to fund the movement, so it's very difficult for us to get funding sometimes. So we operate mainly on a voluntary basis because we think that what we're doing is important and it has to be done. And there's no other organization in Guyana who's organizing in the same way that we're organizing. And so therefore, we're willing to press on, money or not.
Can I add something to that? I have to mention Global Fund for Women,
Yes.
which has been enormously helpful and which has not been like other funders, which has helped Guyana.
Yes.
And which has helped other organizations I know, not ours, because they don't fund in those industrialized countries. And I have to say also that one of the jobs of the Global Women's Strike in the UK has been to help with funding, to help with grants, and we have people who are quite expert, could make a lot of money if they got a job. Somebody once suggested that she get a job and she had a real good laugh. She's too busy to have a job. And we do help with grants and other things. You know, they're part of an international network, and that's useful. I think Nichola didn't want to go too far with details, but that can be said.
Okay, we have just maybe time for one or two questions, and then now for a petition that you'll just sign before you leave.
Yes.
Hi, Nichola. My question is for you. So I just wanted to ask, is there a lot of work being done with like the youth in Guyana to kind of raise awareness for the work you guys are doing? I mean, I know because like you said, well, I'm from the Bahamas, and I know that like a lot of the issues there are with younger people, and I know a lot of these like social trends in terms of like the division among races, like that's perpetuated through the younger generation, and it's going to continue with them if they're not made aware of these things. And also in terms of like rape and abuse against women, I don't know if it's similar in Guyana, but in the Bahamas, a lot of it is with young mothers, with their boyfriends raping younger people. So I know a lot of it is to do with the youth. So is there a lot of awareness rallies, or I don't know, different things that you're doing with the grassroots women to raise awareness among youth?
All right. Unfortunately, I have to say there's not a lot of work being done among youths. We in Red have a youth network, and we have been really trying to do, some of those work with those youths in that network, and some of those children are from the government-run drop-in center. Some of the children that were being taken away from their parents and relatives and so on out of their homes. But truthfully, there's not a whole lot of work being done with youths. It's really hard to organize with youths. I mean, even at the universities, they have been, trying to organize with youths, but like I said, the youths today, most of them are not really interested in, the kind of organizing. And so it's very difficult, but we have done a lot of awareness. We've done some work in schools, and that is another problem for us because to campaign against something that is happening to you is the government really don't like that, and the schools are run by government, and therefore it's very difficult for us to get into the schools because we're seen most times as anti-government, and so that's a way in which you would be able to really capture the youths is to get them in school. But if you organize forums like these and so on, it's really difficult to get them to come. And the other thing is finding the money to go into the various locations is another difficult one for us.
Can I just add to that? I mentioned before, and we know very well that the movement has been very low. And the kind of impact that an organization like Red Thread or Global Women's Strike anywhere will have is that it organizes all the time, and it gets a reputation for being effective and not being oppressive. That's terribly important. Organizations are very repressive, and they're usually very intellectual, or often they are, and they are away from the lives that people are living, and people watch you a long time before they decide that they're going to put their foot in that water. And I think that what you do, and this is, what you do now is you make visible what you stand for and what you are doing, and then people ultimately, when they decide in their own sweet time to move, if you've done a good job so far, they will come to you and say, yes, I've watched you, and I see that you mean well, and I don't think you have everything right because I would like it to be this, this, and this, which might be a good idea, or might not. And so I'm ready to throw my lot in with you now. That's the way it works. There is not a magic formula, but you have to be absolutely scrupulous, absolutely honest, and absolutely open to the kinds of experience that you and others are making. And you have to, and this is crucial, you have to begin with yourself. In the sense that we never let anybody into the Wages for Housework campaign who didn't want the money for themselves. You don't want the money for yourself, you don't belong with us, because then you're doing it for somebody else and God knows what you'll do. You have to want it yourself. You have to want to see the changes yourself. And if you want it, you will convey to others that they can want it and maybe get it too. And you would be ready to work with them. That's what you want. That's what you're aiming for. And there are no shortcuts.
I had a question and a comment. Actually, I have many comments, but I'll save it for one. I'm quite talkative. The comment was for Nichola. I mean, university, fancy, schmancy talk aside, I just wanted to tell you that you speak so eloquently. And I loved hearing what you and Selma had to say. My question was, aside from encouraging people to become enthused and encouraged to all aim at a certain goal, I was wondering, how do you plan to expand, or how do you expand to get your ideas across to more people, with the hope that maybe, someday we can all fight for these causes? What's your strategy for success? That's my question.
Okay. What we have been doing, is a lot of people don't know about us, like Alex said earlier. And what we've started, so there's the Global Women's Strike website, to which we put up some of the work that we do. And we've just started a Facebook page also with some of the work that we do. So we hope that that will be able to, make more people aware of what we're doing. Locally, what we do is the television programs that we're doing, it reaches a wide cross-section of people. And so we're hoping that people could learn, what we're doing from there. And also for the communities that the television programs are not reaching, what we've done is some recording, to which we're trying to raise funds to take those recordings into these communities that have their little community television stations and so on, so that work could be shown there as well. And then of course we have some of our work is we do a lot of statements and letters and so on in the daily newspaper. So some of our work it's being reported in the paper, so people who have access to that, that's another way of helping to reach. And of course, forums like these also help. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
The important thing is to get together with other people. The collective is everything. You know, you find your individuality there, and you work out what you want to do. And even more important in a way is how you want to do it, because the way you want to do it tells you what you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The way you do things tell you what your intentions are.
Okay, I'd like to, Pat from Philadelphia with the Global Women's Strike at Every Mother's Working Mother Network. I wanted to make sure that people knew there were a couple of action items that we would like we have some petitions here. We hope people will sign here tonight. And one of them is related to what Selma was saying about a petition that they're circulating in the UK for payment for carers and to recognize our work as caregivers, whether it's in various capacities. And here in the U.S., we have a slightly different situation because there's actually a bill in Congress right now called the Rise Out of Poverty Act that would change welfare policy from this horrendous policy we've had since 1996, which turned welfare, which is the so-called welfare reform, which turned welfare into the welfare policy into a work program and really attacked welfare mothers and all of us, really, as caregivers as a result. I'm a former welfare recipient myself. This new bill would make ending child poverty the goal. It would start to reestablish our entitlement. It would stop the way that the current policy undermines wages and it undermines all of us, really. So I hope you'll all take a look at this and help sign this today. Also, we have a petition here which is in support of Carolyn Hill, who works with us in Philadelphia with the DHS Respect Our Children group and Every Mother's Working Mother Network. She came to us because she's been fighting to get her nieces back who were taken from her by the Child Welfare Department in Philadelphia because of her not being considered quote-unquote adopted material because she didn't have her GED and other lies, some various lies against her is an example of the kind of racism and bias in the system where kids are taken often not because of abuse, because of bias or poverty and other reasons. So we hope people will sign her petition as well. And I want to mention that we have here with us also Eric Jurtson from Payday Men's Network, who we also have men working with us on these issues and men who are working to support other men who are coming forward to find to reunite their families or get their work recognized or support their mothers and loved ones. Phoebe Jones is also here with the Philadelphia group. So if you have someone would like to talk with us about what we do there on a practical level that illustrates some of what we discussed here today, we have a table over here.
Just to announce that we have a lot of interesting books that you can have a look at and to go deep into your pockets and purchase it, because I think this would be useful, very useful to you. And we also have some brochure about our organizing work, which you could feel free to have.
And add about the books that WPIRG is very generously subsidizing it. So you have a great opportunity to get sex racing class at half the price of normal. So this is really your chance. And I think Selma would be glad to sign it if you are interested in that.
So on the theme of action, we're going to wrap up. Just before we do that, let you know about a couple of meetings coming up. WPIRG is doing some really exciting organizing. We're just getting started. You've maybe heard about some of it, going back to the last maybe FESGM. We're going to continue that. We have our AGM coming up April 4th. We'd love to see you there. We have a members meeting coming up. Sorry.
It's April 3rd.
April 3rd, sorry. Thursday, April 3rd. It's Thursday though. We also have a members meeting coming up this Thursday actually, so tomorrow. So come to that. So we're going to be mobilizing to try to pass a motion at the FESGM in favor of Fall Reading Week. I don't know anyone doesn't want a Fall Reading Week, so let's make that happen. And also the Rio Queer Film Festival will be organized again. It's our 14th one this year. That's another way to plug into the organizing that we're doing. Thank you everybody for coming out, for your questions, and thanks once again for Selma and Nichola for a wonderful talk, for coming to